Hi, good morning, and welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. I'm Kristin Omdahl, and this is episode 650. We are here live in Southwest Florida in my beautiful tropical backyard, and it is stormy today. It is dark and gloomy and rainy and stormy, and the kind of weather that Joe, good morning. Good morning, Lisa and Naomi. Yes, happy hump day. Thanks for the camel. Hi, Chris. Good morning, Grace. Hi, Chris. Hi, Christine and Rita. Patricia. Good morning, Judy. Carrie Mate. Sharon. Hi, Thea. Hi, Sean. Hi, Kim. Hi, Maria. Or Marie, sorry. Hi, Judy and Shelbell. Good morning. Hi, Val. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 650. So exciting. Isn't it 650? Yeah, it's 650. Hope everybody's doing well. Is anybody crafting this morning? Anybody want to share anything like that? I think there was a Katrine, maybe. Hi, Constance and Rennie and DC and Joyce. It sure does, Lisa. Time goes by whether we join or not. Oh, is Dean here again too? Hi, Dean. Good morning. What are you working on today? What's everybody working on today? I'm still swatching for my 3-ply of Be So Baby yarn blankets. Hi, Jill. So I wanted to get a few more rows done of the seed stitch for the knit version before I'm ready to bind off and block my swatch. Want to make sure I have my tension accurate or my gauge accurate before I cast on for a blanket. Hi, Katina's working on a poncho. Wonderful. Nora Sue's working on the Giada shawl. Wonderful. So's Joe. Great. Someone else is just waking up. Me too. It's not that I haven't been awake. I've been awake for several hours, but I was very consumed with working on something on my computer and looked up and realized, oh my goodness, it's late. I haven't scheduled the podcast and I haven't showered yet. So, hi, Lewis. Who else did I miss? Rennie, Mary, Anna, Marie. Hi, Melissa. Good morning. Diane's working on knitting hats for homeless shelters. That's wonderful. Good for you. I'm so happy to hear that. Grace is having problems with the reception. Sorry about that. Hi, Melanie. Good morning. So this is what I was talking about yesterday, was that I'm swatching the knit 3-ply blanket in seed stitch. And the reason I chose seed stitch over ribbing is because I wanted something super simple, and so knit one purl one seems super simple to do, but I also wanted to have it be fairly flat. It's already thick because it's 3 plies of yarn. I didn't need the added loft of a knit one purl one. Also didn't want it to shrink up the blanket any. This will lay flatter, so I'll actually get more bang for my buck. I'll get a larger gauge in this stitch pattern than I will in ribbing, which that's a whole other subject that you can manipulate gauge with different stitches. Different stitches in knitting and crochet can be more dense and more loose in the finished product. Hello, Virginia. I think I saw somebody is working on a bikini this morning. That's awesome. I love making bikinis. Did not catch the name. I think it started with D. Judy's posting a link to Be So Baby yarn. This is colorway salmon that I'm working on here. And in my crochet gauge swatch for the 3-ply blanket, I'm doing this one in 3 strands held together of Be So Baby yarn in colorway Salt and Pepper, which is a variegated yarn that has mostly white and a little bit of a fading in and out variegated gray, which I think is really interesting about this. But holding it 3 plies together, it actually looks like marble to me. I love the marbling effect that this yarn is doing when it's held 3-ply. So like the pattern that's in this ends up being changed dramatically. If you were holding this just 1-ply, you'd probably see more white. Oh, we have a sample of it. Hold on. Hold the phone. I actually have a sample to talk about this. This is so awesome. Can't get it off my board. There we go. So this is what it looks like. So here's the yarn in the ball, which with any yarn can be very deceiving, right? In the hank and in the ball can be very deceiving. You really do need to know what it looks like worked up. So when you work it up 1-ply, you can see the grays do have some variation in them, but that it is still mostly white. I found that when you tripled the yarn for this Tunisian double crochet with 3 plies of baby held together, I feel like the gray is more prominent. So like everywhere there's gray here, it can be in 3 different spots here. So sometimes it'll be gray touching, sometimes it'll be gray not touching. But either way, I think it's just so interesting how a variegated yarn can have a totally different look. And that applies for any variegated yarn. So all the variegated, well, let's lift this back up. So all of these variegated yarns, when you're looking at the photos of the balls or looking at my swatches worked 1-ply, keep in mind that that pattern will change when you double or triple the yarn. As you can see here, it goes from being, the colors are mixed up a little bit more, so it's less contrast, more of a blended pattern. Interesting though, very interesting. And pretty both ways, but like I said, I feel like this one looks like marble. I was considering doing color work with this, but I feel like this has enough going on and is so interesting that this will end up just being a 1-color blanket. And we'll do some sort of twisted fringe on the edges, since I love doing crochet and twisted fringe, twisted elongated strip fringe so much. The knit one, I don't know what we'll do for a border yet. I think I saw a question about that. I'm still doing the gauge swatching. So I am actually doing this triple strand project with chain plying with 1 ball of yarn, but you could absolutely hold 3 separate balls of yarn together if you wanted to. Yesterday I showed how we started with the chain plying, and I'm just continuing to knit and crochet these swatches until I have a 4-inch square, give or take. Then I'll measure them in my gauge ruler. This weather really does a number on me. I'm being a Florida person now, and I've been here so many years that I do call myself a Florida person now. I feel like I'm so spoiled by sunshine. All it takes is a couple days of rain, and I am just out of my element. Anyway, so I meant to say gauge ruler, and that, so once they're 4 inches square, it'll give me a wonderful average of my inch tension for stitch and for rows, and it'll be at that point that I'll be able to figure out how to measure stitches and rows to do 36 by 48 inch dimensions for both of the Lapgans. What else was I going to say about that? Oh, also, I am going to wash my swatches before I before I measure them. And the reason being, and block, like we talk about with blocking all the time, blocking is kind of a mysterious word to a lot of people, but the way I break it down is that it is getting your yarn wet and seeing how it reacts to water. Because, so it's kind of irrelevant if you add soap at that point or not. There are some examples of when you would absolutely want to add soap to the water, and that's when you've used an animal fiber that's on a cone, because sometimes those yarns are oiled while they're being processed, but that's another story. The reason why we see how projects are affected by water, and the reason why we use a delicate wash or a soap or the water in the first place, is to see how our projects react with water, because we're making wearables. If you're making something that never needs to be washed, I guess it's not as important, but anything that touches your skin is going to get the oils of your skin, and it's going to get the perspiration of your skin, and it's going to get dirt from the air and dirt from anything it touches, whether you spill something on it or just use it. Our clothing and the things that we touch, like our sheets, beds, blankets, everything needs to be washed. And when you wash something, you add water, because soap can only wash things if you add water to it. Soap chemically loosens up dirt, but it does not make dirt disappear. It is the water that comes in and flushes the dirt away after the soap has loosened it up from the fibers. Isn't that interesting? And that's the case for all soap. It's just the chemical process of washing that it is soap combined with water that actually does the cleaning. So if something's not necessarily dirty, not for a swatch, you could just wet it first. It doesn't, I mean, like I said, it does soften fibers too when you add a soap to it. But anyway, it's the water that's so important, because how fibers are affected by water, it can make them relax quite a bit, especially if you're doing something with a loose gauge like lace. What'll happen is it'll relax the fibers so much so that they spread out, and that's where your gauge can be drastically different between pre-blocking and post-blocking, and that's why it's so important. Does anybody have any questions before I continue on? Hi, Edna. Oh, maybe there's just another conversation going on. I didn't blow dry my hair this morning. My hair's still wet. I figured if it was this rainy outside, there was no point in that. Hi, Chantel. Good morning. Oh yeah, so once I do all of that and figure out what my gauge is for both the knit and crochet swatches, I can then figure out not only how many stitches and rows I will need in these super simple stitch patterns to make my lap gans, but I will also be able to easily do the math to show you how many stitches and rows you'll need to make either of these, any size Afghan or any size two-dimensional project. So we'll be able to make a scarf, a rectangular wrap, or any size blanket. So super excited to do this, and I'm going to time myself because I'd really like to know how many hours each project is going to be. Yes, I am going to show a sneak peek of a new project today, Naomi. So I don't have the final count of how many balls of yarn it's going to take, and I know I will get those questions when I show it to you. But keep in mind that this really is just a teasing sneak peek. I do not have final yardage to tell you. I do not have final dimensions to show you. I don't have an edging to show you. All I'm going to be able to show you is that there are motifs that are put together, the colorway, but again, it hasn't been blocked, so everything's kind of still wobbly as well, but it'll all flatten out in the blocking process. But what I wanted to do, and you know I'm so inspired by Middle Eastern architecture, specifically Moroccan tile work, and I've been wanting to do a motif project which has a large octagon motif in multicolors and then a smaller motif in between the octagons to fill up the holes, but with a real impacting punch of color. So not only are the motifs worked in 5 colors each, but then I changed the sequence of the 5 colors in all the motifs. And then I added a 6th color for joining them together. So this is what we have so far. So all 12 of the motifs have a completely different color combination. So it's the same 5 colors, but like the first one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next one is 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Then 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. And you know, stuff like that. So every single one is perfectly unique, which is cool. So it's the same instructions, but each motif is perfectly unique. Each one is different, but within the 5 color pattern. And then I combined just 2 colors each into the square motifs, and then grabbed a 6 color of yarn for the joining round, which kind of brings back to that tile inspiration. I figured grout would be a neutral color, so I went with stone for the grout or joining round. And so the 5 colors that are in this project are the 5 colors that I shared an inspiration photo from Greece, actually. And so those 5 colors are aquamarine, splash, orchid, indigo, and silver. See if we can find a good example of some silver lavender. And there's a silver lavender. So like, for example, this one starts with orchid, then it goes to aquamarine, then splash, then indigo, then silver lavender. So those are the 5 colors that are represented in all the motifs. And then the 6th color is stone that I used in here. And that's all the information I have at the moment because it is not done, but it will be a rectangular wrap. It's going to be 2 motifs long by 6 wide, and once I finish the joining all of these, I'll be figuring out a half square version to do along this edge here. I haven't decided if that's going to be in stone or in the multicolor from the centers, and then from there figure out an edging. But we're definitely in the home stretch. This was a quite labor-intensive project. It is tapestry crochet, so we are carrying 1 to 3 colors in the round. I will have a video tutorial for it, and I will be describing I'll be making the chart so that you can see the stitches, and the color change will be from round to round like we normally do, but I'm going to do the chart for the motif in a second version as well so that you can see what color each stitch is within the round. So that's where it's going to get complicated because I won't be able to differentiate color-wise from round to round on that chart, but it will be identical to the same chart side by side where it will be showing color variation from round to round, but then this one will show you color variation from stitch to stitch. And it also, so I mentioned that there are a couple of rounds where you have 3 colors, which gets a little more complicated, and it took me about an hour to make each of the motifs, which I felt like was a very long time. And I know that I am rather quick. So because each motif takes about an hour to make, I felt like this wasn't a good candidate for doing a mystery crochet along and introducing a new mystery each week. For me to give you the mystery of the large motif and say, okay, finish these in a week and we'll do the small motif next and then the edging and joining the third, I felt like a week wasn't long enough to give everybody to make 12 motifs. So that's the reason why I've spent a whole lot of time and dedication to designing this with the intention of it being the next mystery crochet along. And as I'm going along, I realize it does not fit for that model. So the reason I'm explaining all of this to you is because, first of all, I'm not keeping my word, so I have to explain to you why we're making a change, but also it means there will be a new shawl pattern released before a new mystery along project is released because of the timing of how I did this. So, hi Migdalia, hi Sabine. Does that make sense to everybody? Does anybody have any questions about that? Another question people might have is, could you make this all in one color? And yes, you could. You could make it all in one color and it would have a beautiful texture to it as well. It could be a winter project, Rinny. It's, you know, it's made in DK weight milk fiber, which I don't think is necessarily only winter. I feel like that's year round. But the way the colors come together is really spectacular. And honestly, I made it while living in Florida in summer and it didn't bother me at all. It would make a beautiful Afghan as well. I was trying to rush to get it released for a mystery crochet along, and that's why I didn't end up making it an Afghan. But I could definitely share the yardage and give suggestions in the pattern tutorial, or in the pattern, to show anybody who wants to make it into an Afghan, because it would be a one-of-a-kind Afghan for sure. So how's that for a sneak peek? I've been very excited to show all of you, but I thought that I was going to have to keep it to myself because I thought it was going to be a mystery, and turns out it's not, so hey. Yeah, it's going to be fun. You guys will enjoy making it. I thoroughly enjoyed making it, and I think you will too. Yeah, it would be great in 2 colors as well. Am Sterling, yep. Yep, so you could do it all in 1 color, or you could do it in 2 colors, because the parts that are raised to make the flower are done in post stitches. You could do all the post stitches in 1 color. It's going to be called the Apollonia wrap. Not that it matters at the moment, because there is nothing to find yet. It's not released, it's not been published, it's not finished, so it's not published. But if you wanted to do this in all 1 color, the post stitches would end up being embossed on the fabric because they're raised up. If you wanted to do this in 2 colors, you could do the post stitches in 1 color and everything else in a second. You could also make the flower all 1 color, the post stitches a 2nd color, and then the outside a 3rd color. So there's all sorts of ways you could combine colors in here. But I did 5 colors, which I thought was really, really fun to do. And I could show you what it looks like on the back too. It's not necessarily the same on the back, but it's not ugly on the back either. And this is not blocked yet, which is why you see some bumps and curves in my fabric, which is fine. It is so soft. I cannot wait to wear it. Cannot wait. And it'll be a nice piece to wrap around and pin, so you can wear it as a poncho, and it'll be a very chunky scarf for winter time too. Someone else, flower 1 color, background another. Absolutely, you could do that as well. No, Virginia, I did not fix the fence. Definitely not. I haven't even gone over there yet. I tried to get Marlon to go, but he wouldn't go either. Does anybody have any other questions? That's awesome, Rita. DC's leaving. Okay, bye. I think I'll go back to working on my swatch. Dean's leaving. Bye, Dean. Yes, Nora, I would call the motif, the Apollonia wrap, a intermediate project for a couple of reasons. The tapestry crochet has a couple of rounds where you carry 3 colors instead of just 2, so I would call that a little more intermediate, and just because it has the post stitches and tapestry at the same time, I think combining the 2 techniques just makes it a lot going on. Is it like the Zen bag? The interior of the motif is similar to the mandala bag, if that's what you're asking. I just thought that it was such a great candidate for that one. We did this flower motif with the post stitches, and we turned it into a square to make the bag. And in this one, it's that same flower motif with the post stitches in the center, but it's turned into an octagon on the outer rounds, and it's combining colors to really amplify all of the details of the flower. So it is similar, but slightly different as well. But good eye, yes. Hello, sunshine. Trying to get to the end of my loop here so I can show you when to add another loop for chain plying. Yes, it's tapestry crochet. That's why it looks similar on the back as the front. You don't see any of the carry-alongs, which is nice. They're all hidden underneath the stitches. Should I just... I don't know what Sabine asked. She must have asked. I dropped a stitch somehow on knit without noticing. And how do I get the stitch up now? I noticed like 8 rows and just knit 1. on one with one last stitch. Sabine, if it's still raveling back, you have to stop it from raveling back all the way. And if it depends if it's stopped because of a yarn over or a decreased stitch or something, or if it's continuing down. Otherwise, it will continue to unravel all the way back down to the very beginning of the project. Sometimes we do that intentionally, like with drop stitches, but when you actually drop a stitch, just because you've noticed and where it stopped, it looks like it stopped, it has not stopped. Once it is let go, it will unravel all the way back. So first you need to stop it. So you could either add a split ring stitch marker and come back to it later, or you can work on it now. And what you're going to want to do is either with your fingers or a crochet hook, loop that loop into the horizontal bars of the rows above it, and keep looping it through until you get back up to the top of your project, and then move your knitting needles over so you can put it back on the needle. Does that make sense? If you want me to explain it more, I will. I've come to the end of my loop for the chain plying, so I'm going to insert my fingers into the loop, pull the working loop through, and I'll pull a long loop as long as my arm span. Yeah, for sure it's a tutorial. I mean, I could do it here. It's just a little more complicated because I've done this in seed stitch, but we could definitely do it here. Okay. All right. So I'm working in pattern. This is going to be painful for some people to watch, so. Yeah, you still have space to put it up, Sabine. I'm going to show you. Okay, so let's say I dropped this stitch, okay, and it unraveled back a couple of rows. But I'm going to keep knitting and not show you until the next row, okay? So I'm going to pretend like I didn't see that I dropped that stitch. And that's where you're thinking that you don't have space to pull it back up, is because you knit another row. So, get that out of my mouth so I can talk. So this is what she's done. She dropped it and didn't know it. So I'm going across my row and I'm assuming that I don't recognize that I dropped a stitch. And so when you come to it, look, it looks like there's no space to bring it back up, right? That's because you kept going, and the more rows I do, the more it will look like I didn't miss a stitch up here. But you can see that stitch is still dropped down here. And if it looks like, oh, it dropped 4 rows, right? That's okay, Sabine, you can still pull it up. So it looked like it only dropped 4 rows, but I'm going to tell you, if you keep going and you keep messing around with it or just keep working, it'll keep unraveling back. See, I can get it to go 1 more row. If I just pull on this, 1 more row gets dropped. So I'm going to show you the quick way to do this, not necessarily how to do it in pattern right now. If I wanted to do this in pattern, I would have to knit 1 stitch, then purl. So I would be pulling the loop through from different sides. But I'm going to show you the quick and easy way right now, assuming that yours is in stockinette or reverse stockinette. If you're doing anything that alternates knit and purls, you have to pull the loop through in a different way. I'm going to show you the first simplest way, and that is to just get your crochet hook in the loop and then pull it through the horizontal bar of the row above. And so as we're coming along here, it looks like there's not much space there, but it doesn't matter. Pull on that horizontal bar anyway. The horizontal bar directly above where you're at, just pull through it anyway. And what you'll see here is that now I've made it back up to the top and I have my stitch ready, but now my needles are not in the right position to put this back on the needle just yet. So I'm going to set it right there and show you that I did this in stockinette base, which means you're seeing a line of stockinette stitch here, even though it was supposed to be seed stitch. Again, we could do that on another tutorial. That's not the important part to learn here. The important part to learn here is that that stitch needs to be looped through the horizontal bar of the next row up, all the way back up to the top. And then what we're going to do, and I like to do this without actually knitting that first row, I like to slide all the stitches over to the, or slide all the stitches over to the other needle to the point of where that stitch has been picked up and is sitting on the crochet hook. And when I get there, Okay, I'm at the crochet hook now, so now I'm going to take that stitch off the crochet hook and put it back on the needle. So once I put it back on the needle, then I'll get all my stitches back over. So I slid the stitches to the point of the drop stitch over, and then I can put the stitches back on. Yeah, bring it up through the horizontal thread, Sabine. In pattern, so whichever way. Knitting's a little more complicated at times than crochet, Ricola. When it's more complicated is when you're fixing mistakes. So you can see, it looks like I missed a loop somewhere along there, but that's okay. Yeah, as a crocheter, it is way easier to fix mistakes in crochet than it is to fix mistakes in knitting. Knitting itself isn't necessarily more complicated, but fixing mistakes is more complicated. Oh yeah, Sabine, if your project is lace, then you've got wiggle room anyway. Absolutely, just keep pulling up through those horizontal bars and you'll be fine. In another day, I can show you how to do that in Stay in Pattern, where I show you how to pull up with the crochet hook in the form of knitting and how to pull it up as far as purling. And that's for another day. So that was a fun last second tutorial. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes here with me. I hope you enjoyed the sneak peek, the last second tutorial on knitting surgery, which is always so fun to show because I love demystifying things that sound scary because they're really not. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.